All right, we'll call the Board of Directors meetings for January 10th, 2024 to order. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Ready, begin.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And Denise, can we get a roll call, please?
Director Walper.
Here.
Director Martinez.
Here.
Director Berman.
Here.
Director Johnston.
Here.
Director Shibahara.
Here.
Vice Chair Wheeler.
Here.
And Chair Rydell.
Here.
We have a quorum.
All right. Welcome, everyone. Got a packed house tonight. I like it. So Denise, was the agenda properly notified?
Yes, it was.
Perfect, thank you. And then we'll go on to get a motion to either approve or amend the agenda.
Chair Rydell, I move to approve the agenda as presented.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Questions or comments? All in favor, raise your right hand.
Motion carries.
All right, on to item C, Board of Directors reports, and we'll start with Director Walper.
Merry Christmas. I hope everybody had a wonderful time. That's about it for me.
All right. Director Berman,
Nothing to report.
nothing to report. Director Shibahara,
No report.
Director Martinez.
No report.
Well, you guys got plans tonight or what? Director Johnston.
I'll just share that. So I've been part of starting up the new youth wrestling program. Just connected with, took the Mat Club and connected the high school and the middle school, and so Heath Salkup, the middle school coach, has been helping out quite a bit, and Brandon Lohmeyer and his wife Whitney have been facilitating that, and been helping with the youth with a couple other guys, and so it's been great. We've had about, even after winter break when it normally slows down, we've had 30, 40 kids wrestling. We have a girls tournament coming up, all wrestling girls tournament on the 3rd of January, and then we have one more Mat Club tournament out in, I don't remember, I'll look it up, and beginning of February, so and that should be the last tournament until we go to freestyle. So that's an update for me.
Awesome, thank you, sir. Vice Chair Wheeler.
I have nothing as well.
Wow.
I know, it's wild.
All right, stretch
Got
out
back
here.
from break.
Get ready to go.
It's like,
After the holidays, yeah.
Yeah.
Not too much for me, I will say, this weekend, we do have high school musicians at the All-State performances. I do not have the number of how many, but it's a great representation as typically we see from Estacada, so both on the vocal side and the instrumental side, so excited for all those kids to go down and get celebrated in those honor groups this weekend in Eugene. And then high school musical Beauty and the Beast is coming up at the end of this month, January 25th, 26th, and 27th, so anybody out there listening. Evening shows, I believe are 7 o'clock.
7.
Okay. 7 o'clock, Thursday night, Friday night, Saturday night, and a matinee Saturday afternoon. So please come and support. It's going to be a good show, so. And that's all I got. I'm going to keep it short and sweet tonight for reports, so. Okay. Did I forget anybody? I feel like I forgot somebody. It's just so
Okay.
short. I just feel
No,
like I
we're
forgot
good.
somebody. All right. We're going on to item D, district reports. So communications is up first. Come on down, ladies.
Good evening.
Good evening.
So, for January communications, we gave our community and parents a little bit of a break during winter break so that they would be ready to consume a lot more information over this upcoming month, and we got the opportunity to do some behind-the-scenes work and prep for our next stage of communication. A lot of what we're working on right now is Danny and I are working with Josh to put together some video tours of each of our buildings. These go very in-depth behind the scenes into pipes and walls and floors and ceilings, just to give our community that isn't able to make it out for an in-person tour a look at what our building conditions are currently. So we're looking forward to finishing up that project. We're also working on our inclement weather communication. Again, that's every year, so every time we launch it, we make a couple of tweaks and make the systems better, but each year we got a little bit better. Talked to transportation this morning, and they only got 3 calls from families, which is a record low for them, so that is one of the things we measure, and it's going well, even though there's always areas to improve. Also working on our winter activities features, again, musical coming up and winter sports. We really look forward to spotlighting all of those. And then Danny will talk a little bit more about our latest bond updates, but we've enjoyed getting out in the community, even with the weather, out doing door hangers and putting up postcards and just getting the word out so that our community has the opportunity to attend community events and learn more. And then completed projects, we did a December community outreach. As I mentioned, we did postcards and door hangers, and we have table tents up. So we completed some of that, and then we're pushing into January. The Estacada newspaper has run a couple of articles about the bond, which has been an opportunity for some of our community members that aren't as tuned into things like Facebook to see that. So we've been excited about that opportunity, and then making website adjustments to both our bond website and our district website. There's a lot of changes going on, so we took the opportunity over the break to refresh some of those things. So I'll turn it over to Danny to talk about all the stuff that's been happening on the community side.
So as you most likely saw in your mailbox, we've been having some events, and then we have some upcoming in the next week or so where we can really get out and have different kinds of conversations with our community members. The first was the question and answer session that we had at Eagle Creek Saloon on Monday. We really wanted to go into a situation where it was a little more casual. We'd meet people where they are instead of making them come to us. We had a handful of new faces that we've not had opportunity to talk to and had some in-depth conversations. So we really appreciated that opportunity and probably will do that again. Megan was great to work with as usual, and she really laid it out for us, which was great. Next week, we have our high school tour that we sent an invite to the entire community. So we're hoping for a better attendance with that. Not only are they going to be able to see the conditions of the facility, but I think it'll be easier to explain the proposed plan as far as where the high school will be split into a middle school. People that aren't familiar with the layout, excuse me, seem to be struggling with understanding why it does make sense to go ahead and move forward with that. And then we also will be at the Oddfellows Hall on Wednesday. I think that'll be more of a presentation situation where Ryan will be able to go, Superintendent Carpenter will be able to go over the plans and answer questions at the end of course as well. We are also hosting our first Key Communicators event on Friday. So that's an open house that we're having at the new community building at the library. And we've reached out to specifically a lot of folks that have shown support or interest in helping share facts and details about the bond, but also just an outreach to all of our community who's available to show up at any time between 12 and 5:30. We will be there with a lot of resources to help share information, whether that's new brochures that are referencing new updates, or we'll have yard signs, we'll have quick answers for people, like the harder questions, so that they have that opportunity to go ahead and share it with their neighbors or, their circle. And also an opportunity to give a testimonial. We'll have Josh there, so anybody who wants to be on camera, you will have a wonderful time doing so we would appreciate it. And then lastly, we have just been really watching what's occurring out into the community, what conversations are being had, and just making sure that we are listening, answering the questions that they have, and then making note of the top priorities that our community is communicating to us, whether they're showing up to our events and letting us know or just chatting with their friends. It's been really insightful, and we appreciate all the feedback that we get and hope to see more people at our events.
Any questions?
Questions?
I have one regarding the community at large and the conversations happening in the ether.
Yeah.
It seems like there's a contingent of people that are reaching a boiling point with growth within the school district. This wastewater treatment plant, the fire department, I mean, you name it, everybody's hot about it.
Yeah.
How do we feel like we're doing, reaching out to those 15, 20 people that are always on certain platforms? And is it even worth reaching out to those people?
I think that we are doing our best to make sure that we're shutting down any misinformation that's being posted. I just think that we need to do our due diligence to make sure that people are making informed decisions that are based off of fact. If there's an opportunity for us to answer a question or provide a resource like the website, we do that. And if we have an opportunity to explain where we fall in the lineup as far as like new growth, I understand that people are frustrated, but that's not necessarily driven by us, or we can't control that. So we're doing our best to explain that to the community, and are always open to having help with that explanation.
You guys are kind of generally monitoring some of those hot areas.
Yes.
And I've seen there's comments coming from the school district side, and it's helpful because it just spins off into something that's totally irrelevant and not helpful to anybody.
Yeah, I think, sorry if you want to speak on this, I think that it's important for us to make sure that we are explaining the facts of the matter. So if it's just people's opinions, I mean, that's fair, and we never want to negate anybody's reasoning for how they want to move forward with the proposal. But if they're throwing out things that just are not true or misleading, we try to jump in as much as we can respectfully.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Awesome. Nice job. I will say, just not a question, but a comment. I'm having more conversations of people who are well-informed. So I know that the two of you play a major part in that. So thank you for what you're doing and what you continue to do. And if we can help at all, we're certainly here to help.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yep.
Thanks.
Yep.
All right. Next up, building and facilities. Mr. Mike Ware, come on up.
All right, good evening.
Good evening.
So December always brings a different pace with winter break and a lot of other breaks going on during the month. So this report would be a little bit shorter than normal. Our capital improvement projects, just to give an update to the board, our CRE, our controls project that we've started off in the fall is complete. There are some minor things on the back end on the programming side, just to make sure it's finalized and really working efficiently, still going on. But all the controls are in there. The building is heating consistently, which is a good thing. And we're able to obviously keep those controlled temperatures for the most part of the cooler months here. The cooling center project, this is a grant-funded project from the state of Oregon, is underway as well. Again, as I mentioned last month, the equipment is on the contractor's site. We have to do some support framing of the roofing over by the newer gym area, in between the new gym and the existing gym. That is actually started in terms of permitting. It's about 4 to 5 weeks out on permitting right now, so scheduling will be in a couple weeks, but that work will get completed, and then we'll bring in the second phase, which is the equipment and installation of industrial commercial AC for the gym. And again, this is part of a grant through the state of Oregon for a cooling center, so that we can support during those higher temperatures, support the community and other people in those hot temperatures that we're seeing every year these days. Seismic grant project, we released the RFP for the CMGC last month. I'm very excited to announce we had 16 contractors show up for our bid walk this week, and that's a pretty good showing in our opinion and in our engineers WRK's opinion. So very excited. We did see some local faces, which is a good thing, some familiar faces as well. Not all of them are going to probably submit a proposal, but it's always a good showing to see that many contractors come out. Timeline, again, this is going to mirror very similar to the River Mill seismic project, where we're going to take this full year and go through the concept, the design phase, making sure we're getting pricing, and then really gear up for contractor procurement and other services going into the summer of 2025. And we'll be able to address this project, which is at the main gym and seismic reinforcements. River Mill portable project, which was a fun project, and again, it was a project that we were able to procure a discounted portable, if you will, and bring it over. It was formerly used by Salem Kaiser. Our goal and for our timeline was to complete this and have it ready for operations come the return of after winter break. We were successful in that. That goal. You'll see in the next slide a lot of it was all hands on deck from our departments, and there's a lot of moving parts when you think about putting together a classroom, from fire life systems to access control to network to just getting the floors and the desks all put together. So definitely I really want to get out there. I appreciate our facilities, our technology crew, custodians who really just worked tirelessly to get this job done and meet our mark. Over winter break, just to communicate some of the work that was done, we completed 11, we provided 11 trips for athletics and other events. We completed 21 work orders at our maintenance shop for our buses. Many of them were paint, body work, maintenance, general repairs, and some preventative maintenance. Technology completed e-cycling. We completed a new programming on access card readers. I just want to hunker down on that just for a moment. That's an initiative that's been about a year in the making. Most schools, if not all schools in the nation, are locked down from access control to keys. And one of the biggest challenges for first responders is accessing those schools when they need to respond. We've tried lock box methods where access cards and keys were located out front. Those codes are never typically communicated very well. We've tried giving keys to and obviously access cards to our first responders, but that first responder may not always be on duty at that time. So we collaborated with ESD as well as CCSO and our security company to reprogram so that the sheriff's office access card that they use at their building will be able to be used on our building. And so we cut a lot of costs. We had to invest a little bit on our end, but that really allows, they have that badge on them all the time. We're never going to worry about them not having that badge. We don't know where they might be coming from, and it's going to be really expedite the process for responding to emergencies. So huge, huge initiative, very excited. We're about ready to flip the switch on that. And again, as I mentioned, Rivermill Portable Tech over the winter break. Facility maintenance, 75 work orders completed, a lot of them focused on scheduled preventative maintenance, a lot of deep cleaning from our custodians, and again, portable work to get it ready for operations come January here. Any questions?
I do. Mike, so on the cooling center, you'd said we're in permit, there's some time that we're out. Well,
Yeah.
I'm assuming we're all good from a timing standpoint for the grant, and we're
Yeah,
not
we
bumping
did,
up against anything
we
there.
did file an extension, which they're more than happy to do so, but yes, we have until, we filed the extension until the end of this fiscal year.
Okay.
Yep.
Yep, so perfect. And then just to double check on the gym seismic, I think you said summer of 25, but is that 24 or is it is 25?
25, yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
just want to make sure, thank you. That's all I got.
Mike, I have a question on winter operations and roads and all that stuff. Would you, for the world to hear right now, give us like a Reader's Digest version of what that looks like as far as the decision-making process and like
Yeah.
if it's gonna start snowing tonight, what you guys are already doing?
Yeah, we're communicating early, so as we were preparing for last night, we noticed that there was some weather coming in, and as we're preparing for Tuesday potentially, because we know snow's coming in, we start talking about our process and our protocols. Really, it starts at about 3:30 in the morning. We're talking the day before, getting ready, but we start and get on the road about 3:30 in the morning. There's a team of us, about 4 or 5, that includes our facility manager, our transportation manager, and a few others that pick different areas of our district. We have a very big district, as you all know, and so we try to find some of those most critical, higher elevations. And we decide on a time that we want to check in. Our goal is for me to communicate with Superintendent Carpenter by 5 o'clock so that we can discuss what we're seeing and then ultimately make maybe some more decisions and come back at 5:30 to make a final decision for our staff and our parents and our students. A lot of things that come into play is it safe for students to drive? We have professional drivers who drive our buses. Those are actually very safe to drive. And so what we're looking at is the road conditions for our students commuting to and from school. We're trying to track the weather that's coming in, so we're looking at radar. Sometimes that's a little more difficult because I'm up in like Hillock, and that's not very good service up there. But we do our best to track radar. Again, I communicate with Superintendent Carpenter to see what he's hearing from other superintendents in our area. And so it's a very collaborative team effort. We don't make a silo decision, and we really try to make the best decision in terms of for safety of our students.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Other questions for Mike? All right, thank you, appreciate it. Next up is finance and accountability. Christina is out, so we get Superintendent Carpenter to give us that, so this should be brief.
You're going to want it to be because I have a very long superintendent report tonight. Really quickly, going through the financial report, and by the way, Christina Irish wanted to wish the board a happy new year. She is out on a scheduled surgery, and that surgery went well. Christina is doing great, and I'm excited to read the district's financial report. You were provided this in board book, so you have had the opportunity at least to take a deeper look into this. Currently to date, let me see if I can stay with this thing here. Currently to date, our revenues are $47.3 million. Is what we've collected so far, and we are expected to spend $41 million roughly, leaving a 16% end fund balance if the year ended today, which is quite healthy. We're doing quite well. If you look at the next chart, which is the bar graph, you'll notice that our instructional year-to-date purchases plus encumbrances equals 94.4%. And again, Board of Directors, this reflects the adjustments that we made last month, which we believe should drive us greatly into the end of the school year. I don't anticipate pending emergencies, any other type of adjustments that are required this year. If you look at support services, again, year-to-date and encumbrances is at 83.2%. Looking at our capital construction funds, our projected revenue in capital construction is $1.5 million. We believe that we're going to end the school year at $792,000 in that fund. I want to commend the board and just our community growth and what's being paid into construction excise tax. We've been able to replenish this account quite swiftly after investing into our turf field and outdoor classroom. And then looking at enrollment figures for this evening, things are looking quite well from an enrollment perspective. Clackamas River Elementary School today is at 443 students. That's down 9 from this time last year, but we have had no change in a month. Rivermill Elementary School remains crowded at 501 students. It is up 9 since last year, down 5 in the last month, totaling 944 elementary school students in Estacada schools. Estacada Middle School is at 433. It hasn't changed since last month, but it is up 10 from this time last year. And Estacada High School is at 541, down 3 last month, but up 25 from last year. I think that's important to also note that Summit Charter is at 1,335. That's up 126 from last year, and up 2, leaving the Estacada School District at 3,253 students, which is up 161 students from last year, but down 6 from last month. And again, looking at our enrollment trends, you can see that we're the red line on top. We continue to be in uncharted waters for school population and growth since we've been following this. And the downward trend reflects what we see each and every single year when it comes to student population, migration, etc. And so that is your finance report.
Any questions? Superintendent Carpenter, is there anything not discussed or shown on the financial report that we need to be aware of?
There is not.
Okay, thank you. All right, next up is E. We'll stay with the superintendent for his report.
Thank you very much, Board of Directors. I will try to work swiftly through this, but there are a lot of very important things that the Estacada School District has accomplished, is doing, or in preparation that I just want to make sure remains at the front of the Board of Directors' radar. First and foremost is just a quick win. The Estacada School District welcomed 6 educational leaders from the state of Mississippi, Oxford, the Oxford School District, which is the home of Ole Miss University. It's a major college town. I always have to pinch myself and smile when I hear that someone from Oxford, Mississippi traveled 6 people to the Portland airport just to come out to the Estacada School District to see the great things that are happening inside our community. Last month we had a school district from California. Next month we have a school district from Michigan coming. We continue to not only be leaders locally and throughout the state, but the great work that we're doing is being nationally recognized. And it just continues to be an honor to serve and support people who are hungry for the very work and framework that we're doing in our school district. And it's also just great to know that we have friends who are doing this hard work as well throughout the country. But it was really neat to welcome 6 members from Mississippi into our school district today. There are 3 statistical highlights that I'd like to just share with the board in just today. And these are important stats that I just want to inform the board that we're doing considerably better this year statistically than we've done in the last couple of years. And I'm going to knock on wood because this is a point in time. But at this point in time, we're actually doing quite well. The first one I want to point out is Estacada School District's attendance rate. The school district, or the state of Oregon, views regular attenders as people who attend school for 80% of the year or more, 80% of the time or more. If you don't meet that threshold, you are considered chronically absent in the eyes of the state of Oregon. As of today, Estacada School District's attendance rate is sitting at 92%. This is the best attendance rate that we've had in my 14 years now in the school district. In fact, I remember when I was Estacada High School's vice principal, my core responsibility was to improve our attendance rate, which at that time was in the upper 60%. And I felt like I was through blood, sweat, and tears, and then ultimately passing that torch on to other leaders in our school district. We have clawed ourselves into really a leading category. Now, how this makes even more special sense is that the state of Oregon just released its state's average attendance rate, which is at 62%. And so school districts' averages from across the state of Oregon is at 62, and Estacada right now is scoring a 92% attendance rate. And this should be validation and verification that this local public school district is creating a product and an experience that both students and families are proud to send their children to. And I'm very pleased to report that statistic. Also, as we look at other pieces of data to ensure that we're offering high levels of engagement and academic opportunity for our students, we're always tracking the attainment of passing classes. And currently, Estacada School District, kindergarten through 12th grade, 72% of its students are passing 80% of their classes or more. The University of Chicago indicates that if you have a B or less in 2 classes or more, you're considered an at-risk student. And so 72% of our students right now are demonstrating proficiency. And the reason why we still have work to do, don't get me wrong, we've got a long ways to go, but this is a better place. We're in a better place right now in January than we've ever been before when it comes to student attainment. And I'm very pleased about that. And just a fun fact, because we hear teachers, educators, parents, and students share their frustrations about turning in homework. And so as we've always wanted to continue to measure what matters, this year we're really focused on students completing the rigorous tasks that were assigned by their teachers. And right now, 81% of our students, kindergarten through 12th grade, are turning their homework in on time. And that's been a great opportunity for us to identify other students as risk as we try to limit barriers to making sure that they're getting the important work and demonstrations of learning in. So 3 statistics that I just wanted to share with you that would indicate right now we're having quite a good school year when it comes to the most important things. And that's bringing kids here, educating them, and then ultimately preparing them for a successful future and competitive future. I had inclement weather and how we make those decisions on my list, so thank you, Vice Chair Wheeler, for checking that off the list. That was great. The next thing on my list is I just want to thank and acknowledge the Executive Board of Directors for your support and guidance as I engage with Summit Learning Charter School as we continue to partner and dream about what the future looks like. There's a lot of work in progress, but I do want to recognize Executive Director Johnston for his wisdom, expertise, and counsel. And I just wanted to use this as another opportunity to convey to our community how blessed they are to have such a talented school board of directors. Each person on this board represents an expertise in many different ways, from building development to engineering, electrical, technology and communications, construction, and Director Johnston is an expert and leader in the field when it comes to charter schools. And so I just wanted to thank you for your support and help in that, and I look forward to informing the board of more information as it becomes available. But I've really appreciated your support as we've moved forward in that direction. One of the wins that Executive Director of Operations Mike Ware shared that I really wanted to underline, because again, I think the board deserves credit for this win, and that is as we had construction companies fulfill the RFP requests for purchases, we have in the past been hampered with few options. One or two people would typically show up to give us these bids. And it was through the leadership of Executive Director Martinez and the support of others who really tried to find new, innovative strategies for us to get our name and our projects out there on a different market and on a different set of marketing documents. And so the fact that we traditionally have one or two, and in this new seismic proposal that we're about to embark on, to have 18 different companies come up to that is really doing our taxpayers and our community a benefit, because now we're going to see true competition for a job, which is ultimately going to ensure that the people whom we select is going to be at a competitive rate, allowing us to maximize that. And so thank you, Director Johnson, for your guidance and leadership in that work as well.
Thank you.
On January 28th and 29th are only important for you to note, because this is when we again are going to do another scientific polling research data. Our intention is to provide questions and thoughts to you in advance so the board can have an opportunity to look over them. The reason why this is an important one is because this is probably our last piece of evidence that we're going to be able to apply as we make a final decision on two bonds or not two bonds, not to go out for a bond or to go for a bond. And so I know that I look forward to some workshop opportunities and to several conversations between now and really that February board meeting. But as we line everything up just perfectly, and I think we've done a stellar job of communicating our package, and I think we've done a stellar job of waiting until the very last moment to make a very important decision, an informed decision. But I just need to warn the board that that's coming in this next school board meeting. And so we hope to provide you with the most up-to-date and accurate information about where our community stands in this $149 million bond package. And I look forward to the myriad of conversations that are coming our way as we try to make a decision that is best for the children of the school district and the next 30 years of the school district as we update our aging facilities, support growth inside our community, and try to be as competitive as possible when you compare students engaging their schooling in Estacada versus students at the same age experiencing their schooling in other communities who are very successful in bond campaigns. And our students are at a competitive disadvantage for that right now. And last but not least, I do want to commend our team for their work over winter break. I think Mike, to some extent, in a polite way, undersold how busy a certain group of people are during that winter break. Obviously, our teachers have the opportunity to rest and recover. Many people get the opportunity to rebuild that stamina as they engage in rigorous construction. But there is a group of employees where this is crunch time. It is the only time window where students aren't here, where things in our systems aren't moving 10,000 miles an hour. And so our custodians, our grounds and maintenance crew, this is where they're hitting punch lists at a very aggressive pace. And I thought that they did a tremendous job this winter. Our facilities look fantastic. And we were successful in moving a fifth grade classroom out to the portable, putting our elementary school music teacher back in the music room. And there was just a lot of great teamwork that supported that, which is, I think, a compliment to the great work that this school district is doing. And so those are the big updates that I wanted to communicate with all of you, and that is your superintendent's report this evening.
All right, questions for Superintendent Carpenter?
Thanks.
Vice Chair Wheeler, Director Johnson is pointing at you for a question.
Any questions? Not yet.
Not yet. All right. Okay, thank you very much. Moving on to item F, reports and presentations, and we have the Clackamas ESD here for local service plans. I don't see Larry.
We're from the ESD, but we're here to support Larry Didway.
I think you guys should do it.
Okay, Larry's not here yet. We'll move you down the list a little bit. I was gonna say, I don't see him, so I would assume. Can we just tell him we'd prefer to hear from you instead of him? Is that okay? All right.
I think he might
He's at Glad's, yeah.
We are ahead of schedule, so this is not a judgment on Superintendent Didway.
Let's keep that and keep going.
Let's keep that going,
Yeah.
okay.
But do note that Superintendent Didway chose to go to Gladstone first, and I just cannot, I will not forget that.
Save the best for last. Save the best for last. All right, so we're gonna skip the ESD for now. Thank you for being here, and we'll hear from you shortly. We'll move on to the Estacada High School FFA chapter. So Mackenzie, Willie, and crew, come on down. And as you're settling, I would just remind everybody to speak into the microphone, so if you have to shuffle them a little bit, that's okay. But for anybody that's joining online, we want to make sure that they can hear you as well. So we'll turn it over to you guys.
Okay. So this was Miss Willie's first event with the chapter, and she was impressed with how it went. We had 3 members who competed. Natalie received a blue ribbon with her steer. Caleb won agriculture mechanics with his restored tractor, and Eli was the reserve champion poultry showman.
Cassidy Moore, Gabby Hartman, and Alyssa Cushman all did very well in their events with their horses. Caleb's tractor moved on from county fair and won at the state level.
We went to Camp Howard and worked with the Mount Hood district officer team and also fellow FFA members. We also worked on our leadership skills.
This was our first career development contest of the year, and we're very excited about how it went. We each had an agriculture-related product that we sold and a different practicum we competed in. I won 3rd place high individual. Logan Hodges won 8th high individual. And Caleb Palmatier and Eli Clark were also in our high individual section. Our advanced participant was Cassidy Moore.
This is our Winter Leadership Day. We traveled to Malala High School. We made a bunch of new friends. We worked on our leadership skills, and we all took different classes, learning about like different fields and stuff, and like there was like veterinary and stuff like that.
This was our first year that we hosted a dinner to raise funds for our chapter. These funds will go towards FFA trips, scholarships, and towards other FFA needs. After that night, we were overwhelmed with excitement for the year and proud to be a part of the Estacada community.
So for our classroom happenings outside of FFA stuff, we have a lot of cool things going on in the classroom. I worked on getting some donations for boughs, so our horticulture and intro to ag class could do wreaths and centerpieces. Those went to our dinner to help with the decoration, so that was super cool to have that. We did ag sales, and the girls brought their ponies, so we've been doing a lot of cool things to get things back up and going, because I know that the ag program's had a pretty rough go here for a bit. And so I've had great feedback from parents from even, they said their students have taken ag science probably 3 times now, and this has been their favorite so far just because we're doing a lot of different things and they're up and they're moving a lot, and so that's been really refreshing and exciting. And so I just encourage you to follow us on Facebook to stay up to date on everything, because I'm really good about posting updates on there as far as what's coming up, stuff we're doing in the classroom, trips the kids are going on. And then I also gave a list of our important dates. And so I highlighted some of the ones that we really encourage you to come to, as far as like our plant sale, and then our spring banquet in May. That's when we're just gonna recap the whole year, highlight all of our success. The kids will get their degrees, and we'll kind of give out some awards. And so just put those on your calendar, follow us, and just stay up to date with everything that we have going on. Do you have any questions for the kids or myself?
Have one. Olivia, what was the product or the sale product?
The one that I sold a cow model that it actually splits in half. So we had to put it on a cart. It was fun. It was eventful. And then I think Caleb had grain. Eli had hazelnuts. And Logan did a chicken kit. And I can't remember what Cassidy had.
Thank you.
So how does the Kiss the Pig fundraiser
Oh, you
work?
stole my question. You stole my question.
Sorry. And does it make a lot of money for you?
Yeah, we have, okay. So for the Kiss the Pig fundraiser, what we do is we make an announcement, we put out jars. The one year that we did Kiss the Goat, and we put out jars, and each jar had a teacher name on it. What you did is whatever you had, change, cash, whatever it was, throw it in the jar. Whatever teacher made the most money towards our chapter had to kiss a goat. This year, they're kissing a pig.
Now, I've got an example for you. We did that in the corporate world. And you always get the biggest dog, you get the most amount of money. So, anybody that wants to put his name in, I'll put the first $50 in, okay?
Sounds like I'm in trouble.
Sounds like you are in trouble.
Great.
I made it to the FFA benefit dinner. It was awesome. The tri-tip was great. Your dad did a fantastic job. I think he did that right? Yeah. I know he was carving it. Great job. It's good to see the FFA getting revived. I was a FFA alum back in the late 90s. I hate to say it, but it was that long ago. And I think a lot of the reason I do the things I do now is because of FFA. So keep at it. It's awesome. You guys will look back on it, enjoy it for a long time.
All right, anything else?
Thank you.
Great job.
Yeah,
Thanks for
thank
being
you.
here tonight. Congratulations. All right, so let's go. I saw Larry come in, but you might need a second to breathe, so we'll give you a short break here, Superintendent Didway. We'll move on to the Bond Steering Committee, and then we'll come back to the ESD. So the Bond Steering Committee, Penny and Shannon, if you guys want to come on down, that would be great.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Hello. Do you want me to start? You can start. So my name's Shannon Richards. I participated in the site committee meeting for the school bond. So I was asked to give you just a little bit of a broad overview of how that those committee meetings went, what we discussed, and how we came upon this list that I believe you have of top priorities for our committee specifically as we're looking to build a new facility. So obviously with this committee, we started out just kind of taking an inventory of what we have here in the district with buildings and property and what we have to work with. And then we also talked a lot about enrollment and what the future looks like with that. Obviously it's hard to gauge, but we can kind of take some historical data and push that forward. So with all of those things in mind, and then also knowing the limitations of budget, you know, we don't have a blank check, which we all would love to use. We decided upon what you have probably seen. I think everybody's seen now that they pushed out to the community, but you've seen this proposal for the middle school and high school being side by side, and then the middle school being turned into an elementary school. And that is what we decided on, basically because, I believe it was mostly because cost. It just is simply the most cost-effective way to improve our facilities. So you'll see on this list of top priorities, a handful of things that we came up with much discussion. I think the four things that I kind of came up with that I remember that we talked about the most, and the top one that you see on that list is having two separate this says 2 separate entrances for the middle school and high school, but we specifically talked about 2 separate buildings. We want them to be very separated. We know that was a huge concern for us, that the community would want those age groups separated and divided as much as possible, although with some shared common spaces in the middle just for cost effectiveness and things like that. So we talked about sharing the cafeteria, not at the same time with the students in there, but the space being shared, things like that. So there is a little bit of crossover, but we talked a lot about that and what that looks like. So having separate entrances for those buildings was a big thing for us, just to kind of create this visual and physical divide. That was very, very important. So as moving forward, when you guys look at plans, that's something that you'll want to consider. We also talked about having separate walls, like if they are 2 separate buildings, maybe in the center having a common cafeteria or something like that. So you'll see that on, reflected on this list. One of the other things we talked a lot about in depth was parking and transportation. Right now, we feel like we have very limited parking on all campuses of our district. So there's some various ideas that we floated around to change a lot of that and move some of those things around. I don't know if some of that information has gone out to you guys or there's just some different ideas. So we talked a lot about that. Hopefully you'll see some of those proposals. We talked about safety. Again, having separate buildings, being able to secure those buildings, making sure our students and our staff are safe at all times, whether that be through transportation or through access to the buildings, making sure that there's different entrances that are secured. And then we also just talked a lot about what the facility space inside each of those buildings looks like. And so, how many gyms do we have now and how many gyms do we need in the future? Do we need more? How much space do we have for CTE classes? Do we need more? How much space do we have for music and drama, things like that? Do we need more? So we talked a lot about that, and so you'll see some of those recommendations reflected in this list as well. Yeah, I felt like we had really healthy conversations in that committee. There's never enough time in those committees to decide everything, so it's always a challenge. But I feel like we all came to a pretty good understanding that what we were recommending to you guys reflected at least the people in the room, and we tried to have a good sampling of different people in that room so that you get, community input and things like that, not just a bunch of parents in there. But there were parents and staff and community members and things like that. So, yeah, that's all I have for that committee. Does anybody have any questions?
As far as limiting building entrances and exits, did we talk to the fire marshal at all?
We didn't. No, we didn't go into that amount of depth. But that would be a consideration that, you'd probably want to talk with somebody. A lot of the stuff that we talked about, obviously, we're not experts.
Right.
And we're not architects either. And so a lot of it was just like, well, we'll throw some ideas out there. This is what is important to us. But then, the architects and people who know that stuff will need to really hammer down and figure that stuff out, so. And I didn't talk much about the middle school either. I mean, we talked about it, but just now, we did talk about what that looks like with the middle school turning into an elementary school. It's a concern, it's not ideal, but I think that with some of these things listed here, we can make it work. I think a lot of creativity is gonna need to go into that building, but I'll let the people, the powers be, do that, so, yep.
Is the steering committee meeting currently, or is this, what does it look like at this point in time and then moving
I
forward?
believe we're finished. I have not heard anything about a future meeting, so I believe we're finished at this point unless I get a call from you guys or from Maggie or somebody to tell me that I have more work to do.
So really, it's a great process question. So at this point, what you're receiving right now is the final recommendations from the steering committee. And so these are the things that our really collective group or representatives from our community as a whole has said to the board now are, if we were to go out for a construction bond package, these should be the top priorities. And so really then, as we build what a bond package would look like, ultimately it would include these top priorities. So then the next steps after this then is and I think we've already really gotten a really great head start on the communication, is now the district would begin to communicate what those top priorities are and what a bond package would look like in an effort to fulfill those top priorities. And so we've launched that simultaneously with this work. And so from a process perspective, this is a representative of community members sharing with the board what they think the top priorities of the school district should look like. And then moving forward, the steering committee will be deployed again once the board decides, yes, let's go for a bond incorporating these top priorities. Then that steering committee will then ultimately be powered by the board to then turn around and begin to engage the community in support with us to begin communicating the importance of that package.
Awesome.
Thanks.
All right, any other questions at this point? I'm sure there's gonna be a lot down the road. Yeah. That's when the questions will come, but thank you both for your work on this, so.
So I worked on the finance committee, and the number one thing that we focused on really was transparency. We heard that a lot from the community, wanting to see what the budget was, what was expected to be spent, and then if the bond passes, what is it actually spent on, how is it spent? I'm still surprised by how many people in the community don't know where the football field came from and how the money came to be, and the number of community members that volunteered their time and their resources to make that happen. So as a parent, I get a lot of the district communication, and I see those things, but we obviously have a lot of community members that don't get that. And so we talked about how to get that information out to the other people that don't hear these things and that don't know how the district is being creative with trying to spend its funds. We talked about return on investment. If on average, a taxpayer is paying an additional $1,000 a year in taxes, that's $20,000 over the life of the bond. What am I getting out of that as a taxpayer? What is my return? And how can we prove to community members the benefit that our children get by having a 92% attendance, by having a higher graduation rate, by having facilities that don't catch on fire, by having secure buildings? There was a school shooting in Ohio just a few weeks ago. My daughter, who's a freshman, that is one of the things that she's nervous about. She knows that this building isn't secure, and how does that work, and how do we plan for the future? Because that's not getting better and it's not going away. So how do we as a community keep our children safe? Bond oversight, having somebody who can give that transparency to the community of how things are being spent. We talked about cautions with that because not everybody understands how construction works, and that dollars have to be spent on architects and project managers and permits and all those other things that go into a bond. It just isn't a building that automatically appears. But knowing where those things are being expended and how to explain them to people in a terminology that most people can understand. Communicating full costs. There's still people that think that the bond that was for Clackamas River was misspent, but the district can clearly show how it was spent, and I think that it's people not asking the questions to getting the answers, or they just want to think what they think. I mean, I've come to that conclusion after talking to many of them. Maximizing the funds where possible, being fiscally responsible, choosing correct bidders, making a facility that is going to allow us to grow but isn't too outrageous, and that's what Shannon's committee worked on, and I think that they came up with some really good solutions. Also for the community uses, all of our ball fields, all of our gyms. We have a lot of kids that are very active and very limited space for them in all arenas, from FFA to, soccer, softball, everything. Investing locally. We have a lot of great contractors in this community, and getting that information out to them so that they can bid, so that they can participate in them. And ensuring procurement is advertises, exactly what we were talking about, the other project that's coming on, to make sure that we've got quality bidders and people that we can trust with those funds. That's what we covered. And a lot about how to communicate with our tax base. We talked a lot about that, how to explain to them what the expectation is for that bond and the price of that bond and how it'll affect them. Because that's probably the biggest conversation that the community has.
When you figure out how to crack that shell for people to hear what you're saying, let me know.
Yeah.
I am right there with you. And two, we're in a situation where, cost keeps climbing at every rate, from utilities to, wastewater to more bonds being asked to be passed from other things in our communities. So
Yep.
that cost isn't going down anytime soon.
No, it's not. Awesome. Questions on the finance side of it? Committee?
One thing, Penny, I appreciate the way you talked about the $1,000 per year over 20 or 30 years or whatever it is. Because when you think about it that way, and if somebody's hanging on to their house for that time frame, the value of their property and paying that extra money in taxes to have a good school and the attractiveness of that, when you look at real estate as a whole, it's a pretty minute amount, and it's a huge investment that goes a really long ways. And it's a big hit every year, and there's no doubt about it, and we all know that. But to break it down in that way, it's like, okay, well, maybe there's a way we can convey that, because just you talking about it, it kind of made me think a little bit differently about it, so.
Yeah, I mean, because if you can target the benefit that kids get out of, and we're not even talking about a state-of-an-art school, we're talking about a school that's safe and provides current means for their education. The education, when was this building built, 65?
Yeah.
Just the number of things that have changed in those number of years and how we educate our students. People get hung up on that. This building was good enough for me, it should be good enough for this generation. But it isn't. When we talk about safety and we talk about technology and we talk about kids with special needs, we're in a completely different ballpark than we were 45, 50 years ago. And we have to address those. And they're just, and we have to convince people that that's a necessary thing to address. And then one of the things that I would like to know is kids that have graduated, where have they gone since graduation? Because that's really the return on the investment. That's the proof that our teachers are educating, and what more could we do with better facilities?
I think you're talking to a lot of same people I'm talking to.
Yeah.
Well, I'm a big ROI guy, and I think we need to promote those stats that you just gave. That's our return on investment, from 62% to 92%. I mean, that shows you right there where your dollar's going.
But you have to be careful with that too, because if you're at 92% in the current facilities you have, why do you need anything different?
We're doing that in spite of.
In spite of,
Aging
yes.
facilities.
Yes.
Imagine what we
What
could
you
do.
could do, yes.
Yeah,
Yeah, and 92% isn't good enough.
Yeah.
yeah,
And when we get to 99%, that's not good enough.
yeah.
We need to go to 99.2, 99.5.
Yep.
We always have to have that carrot up there.
Yep.
And too, these are students, most of you guys have been in Estacada for many years. Many of you grew up here. People return or stay in the community. What benefit does that give by educating our children well to bring profits and revenues and good standards back to our community? That's what we need to share with those individuals. These are gonna be your neighbors in 5, 10 years. You want them to be able to buy a house. You want them to have a living wage. You want them to be able to leave the nest, and I want my daughter to leave, I want her to be able to get a good job and to be able to be an adult, and she's gonna do that by getting a good education.
Yeah.
Agreed. Well said. All right.
Very
Great
well
job.
done.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And the Finance Committee, once or if successful in a bond campaign, the Finance Committee, who just presented to you as well, would be the kickstarter to the financial oversight of the bond utilization.
All right. Thank you very much. Circling back, Clackamas ESD Local Service Plan, Superintendent Didway, come on up. Thank you for multiple sites tonight, and I know you saved the best for last, which is why you're here now.
He certainly did. Yes, thank you.
He said it on record.
Yeah, no, thank you very much, and I'm sorry that we weren't here when you got there on your agenda. I guess that means you were running a very efficient roll call here today. And you've got some great cheerleaders, I heard from the bond report. So, I'm Larry Didway, Superintendent Clackamas CSD. Good to see you all again here this year, and this is our annual visit with you to share our local service plan that's designed to serve all 10 of our component school districts. And with me behind in the audience are 3 of our board members who always value and believe in coming and sharing this experience and making and their connection with you as a board and with the school district and this community. And behind me is Nadine Duffield, who is one of our board members, and Susan Trone, and Len Mills back there. So, we have provided you with a packet. Did you get the packet? Okay.
Yep, it's electronic.
It's electronic.
Yep.
Oh, you haven't received the physical one yet? Okay. I think it was coming. It's here. It will arrive to you in a moment here. In your packet, there are 3 different documents that I'll introduce to you. But before I do that, I do want to start with just some thank yous. Beginning with your superintendent, Ryan Carpenter, who is a very valued regional member of our superintendent's group that meets regularly to share information and collaboratively address our shared challenges. And Ryan is a recent chair of that group, but I really deeply value his thoughtful partnership and leadership, and his colleagues do as well. So we really want to say thank you for your contributions. And we also want to say thank you to you, Chair Rydell, for providing years of steadfast service on our Clackamas ESD Budget Committee, and hope you will continue that service. And we very much appreciate your involvement there too. In the local service plan that you do have, it's the one with a solid cover. On pages 10 and 11, there is a call out to several of your Estacada School District personnel who participate with job-alike professionals in regular meetings that are convened regionally as advisory groups that are facilitated by Clackamas ESD. And we definitely appreciate each and every one of them and their commitment to this collaborative work with their peers across the county. And then, of course, January is a School Award Appreciation Month, and we definitely want to express our gratitude for your leadership, dedication, and the contributions you make to the lives of youth in this community, and also for public education in general, and not just in January, but all year long. And as a token of our appreciation, we did bring another set for you of note cards that feature artwork from our 2023 ESD Regional Art Show. And by the way, the Best of Show winner of that was from Estacada School District. So a few notes about the local service plan. Again, that's the booklet that's solid on the front, and how we create it. It is a plan developed annually, and that is required by law and in the state of Oregon, and it covers all of the services that the Educational Service District will be providing to its local school districts in the coming fiscal year. And our district advisory groups begin that process. In fact, we're already talking about the next one, and provide input on the plan development. And then that plan comes to the regional superintendent group and then to the ESD board before it comes to you and other component school districts for board approval. In your packet, the only document that you are asked to approve is this one. The others are for information only. I do want to share a little more about the local service plan itself, though. It does reflect a very robust partnership between Clackamas ESD and the school districts we serve, including Estacada, and it provides a comprehensive review of all of our services, beginning with resolution services, which are available to every school district, and those include services in the areas of special education, technology and data services, and teaching and learning support, as well as direct revenue that comes back to you and it can be used for other ESD services. It also covers contracts and grant services, and those are in areas of early learning,
additional special education programs and support technology and teaching and learning services, as well as multiple student support services and district technical support that is provided through the Student Success Act funding. The local service plan, again, has been approved by the Clackamas Chief Administrators Council, which is a group of our 10 county school superintendents and the Clackamas Community College president. And it has also been approved by the Clackamas ESD Board and is here for you tonight and we ask for your approval. The other items I want to address briefly, and one of those is your fiscal year review for Estacada, and it looks like this. We also included a copy of the other school districts for your information as well. And that's just a detailed report for you to show how your district has overall accessed value of services delivered by Clackamas CSD, and it highlights some of the key services that have been provided. Your print packet that does have that, I do want to, like I said, it has the other school districts as well, but I do want to highlight a few things from Estacada's. It does reflect more than $2.4 million in total services provided, which is about $230,000 more this year than it was last year. And it does have about $771,000 in revenue that was funneled directly back to Estacada, which is a little about $20,000 less than last year. It does reflect vibrant partnerships in early learning evaluation services. It creates some new and more inclusive early learning experiences for young children, improved STEM learning opportunities, improvement in support for multilingual learners, provides special education services to students with very complex needs. Supports improvements and enhancements to curriculum and instruction, particularly in STEM, math, and literacy. And it supports school nurses and counselors, helps address students' mental and behavioral health needs, and provides a range of data and technology support. And we hope the format of this report is useful to you, and we would really welcome your feedback on how we can make it more useful to you in the future. And then the last document is our annual report that is titled At Your Service. And this just covers roughly a one-year period from fall of '22 through fall of '23 and uses data and storytelling to provide you with a little more information about what Clackamas ESD does and the impact that we have in our region. And we hope that this report is also useful to you and would welcome your feedback on anything you'd like to see included in the next or future reports. And with that, I'll pause and see if you have any questions that I can answer for you tonight.
Questions for Superintendent Didway? No? We appreciate I'll just give my perspective on it. It's great to see, again, what contributions are made to the Estacada School District through the ESD and how that money is spent. I think sometimes that gets lost a little bit in the world of education. So, and I would certainly offer up to any fellow board members, if you want to come hang out at the Finance Committee meeting to see how all of the 260 some pages of budget line items that the ESD manages in all those areas. It truly is remarkable what the ESD is able to accomplish, even outside of everything that's encompassed in here. So, so thank you for that.
I'll add, just in my own work, to scale all of these services that Estacada can use is a huge win for our district. I appreciate the detail in some of the bullets in here, especially in the teaching and learning. And so definitely reach out to learn more about them. But I know for us to try to do all this locally would not be efficient, and so I'm glad that there's a service that we can reach out to for some of these services. So appreciate your work on it.
Thank you very much. We appreciate the collaboration and certainly value the ethos that comes from our colleagues in all 10 of our school districts who really work together and value the work that we do together and know that when we're working together we achieve better outcomes for kids.
Agreed. All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right,
Appreciate
thank you
it.
very much.
Yep, it was nice seeing you.
And you're all welcome to the finance meeting.
Come on in.
It sounds like it's not as entertaining as it is. That's.
Educational for sure.
Yeah, yes.
So, thank you. Thank you all for being here tonight. We appreciate it. All right. On to G, which is discussion. We have none. On to H, hearing of citizens for action items only. We have none. On to I, action items. The consent agenda includes a package of one or more items to be voted on as a unit. However, if any board member is not in favor of one or more agenda items and prefers to take separate action, a request to the chair anytime prior to the vote will remove that item for a separate vote. So first up is the consent agenda.
Chair Rydell, I move to accept the consent agenda as presented.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Discussion on that. All pretty straightforward.
Was there some discussion on the public charter schools?
Yeah, we pulled out the additional, was it the AR?
It was LBE something. It was,
Oh, okay, it was the
LBEA.
second
Still
one,
an
okay.
E
It was the
here.
second.
Yeah.
Yep.
Thank you.
Okay. Moved and seconded. No additional discussion. All in favor, raise your right hand.
Motion carries.
On to J for the ESD local service plan.
Chair Riddell, I move to approve the Clackamas ESD local service plan for the 24-25 school year.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any additional discussion? All right. All in favor, raise your right hand.
Motion carries.
On to item K, resolution 2023-7.
Chair Rydell, I move to authorize the Board of Directors of the Estacada School District to authorize Resolution 2223-7.
I'll second it so we can get into some
Moved and
discussion.
Get to the
Get into
discussion already,
One quick, just housekeeping, Denise. So
Yeah.
it says 2023-7 at the beginning, and then it references 2223.
Okay, I can
I'm
make
assuming
that
it's
correction.
2023, right?
Yes,
So the
yes.
year and the number, so,
Yeah. I'll make the correction.
thank you. Okay, moved and seconded. Let's call Mr. Mike Ware down here for,
Let's discuss this.
So, so prior to what's going to be a really fun discussion, the board had an excellent discussion in the last board meeting about the philosophy and movement towards alternative fuel school buses. And so, thanks to your direction and feedback, the district and our team did some work to continue in returning now to educate a little bit more and dive deeper into the conversation about these alternative school buses and where the direction the state and the federal government is going. And I think one thing that wasn't made as clear from the district was where the state is going. At some point, it's nice that we have the ability to say yes or no, but in the year 2025, there will no longer be diesel-powered buses coming off the assembly line. And so at some point, the district is going to have to make a decision of to move in the propane direction or to move in a battery-powered direction. And so what we're trying to do right now is identify one of two options of where we need to go, and that would ultimately make us eligible for grant funding. I think that it's perfectly acceptable for the board to say, while we can continue to purchase diesel buses, let's do that. And we can do that. We need to know that we're intentionally doing that with the inability to be eligible for grant funding to offset these costs. So really from this current 2024 forward, if we purchase a diesel bus from 24 to 25, it would be at full sticker price because the state has eliminated any grant that deals with diesel engine buses.
And just to clarify, Ryan, not to cut you off, but that grant typically is buy one, get one half off,
That's,
right?
that's correct.
In that neighborhood?
Yep, that's
Okay.
right. Yep.
Thank you.
When it's all said and done, and all expenditures, which I think is important for the public to know, is reimbursed back at 70% over 10 years in depreciation. So every dollar that we spend into a public school bus, over the course of 10 years, we receive 70 cents on that dollar when we make those purchases. And so I'm excited to have Mike Ware work with you again on some of this. And at the end of the day, this vote doesn't say, let's buy a propane diesel bus today. It suggests an opinion, an overall opinion from the board of either to go propane or to go battery in the future, which at some points, which is 2025, will be the only two choices that are available to us from that perspective. And that includes non-grant funded, because we're being told they're not going to make diesel yellow buses anymore after, or during 25 or after 25. So, Mike?
Thank you. And you hit a lot of good talking points, a lot of things I was going to say.
Oh, sorry about
No,
that.
that's
I
great.
just
I
wanted to-
appreciate you helping me
Yeah.
out there. A couple of things I wanted to report back to the board. There were questions last month that we did some more research on, and to be able to answer some of those questions, and then just open it up for additional questions or things that I can answer. One question is, can we still purchase diesel buses? And yes, we can still purchase diesel buses. They're limited in supply. We also are limited in what options we can choose. For example, we like to look at disc brakes, beacon lights, different tires on the back. Those options are probably not available for us. Not a deal breaker for our mechanics or our bus fleet, but those are the kind of the nice things that we try to look at when we're purchasing diesel buses. And so that was one question that came out. A few other questions: how do we address longer routes? And again, we do have DEQ compliant diesel buses, and those are still going to be compliant after 2025, and we will utilize those buses. I had Sarah Lawson, our transportation manager, reach out to a number of school districts that have propane buses across the mountain range or further away from Estacada, and again, discuss what they like best about propane, what are some of the barriers. And so we were able to obtain some good feedback and some great information, but we also broached the idea, like, could we entertain agreements to utilize your propane services or infrastructure if we were coming over to your school district? And again, those are really early talks, but those are things that, they seemed open to the idea to look at that as an option. But in the interim time, until we were able to figure out a good, clean agreement, our diesel buses that are compliant would be used. We did reach out and really investigate how many districts, similar size, similar type of area, as best we could within the state of Oregon. A few that I wanted to list off that do currently have propane buses. Bend LaPine has 71. Klamath County has 64. Grants Pass has 28. Brookings has 9. Sisters have 2. Redmond has 2 as well. So there are a good list of school districts that have moved or elected to go towards propane buses as opposed to electric buses. And again, just getting ahead of the requirement that will be coming in 2025. And then finally, 2 other things. If we are electing to make this declaration on the resolution, this is part of a grant requirement. And so if we are ending to decide to wait, which is totally fine within your guys' opinion and decision, we just wouldn't be eligible for any grants this year, as Superintendent Carpenter mentioned. Go ahead.
Question.
Go ahead.
What's a price tag of comparison from
Yeah.
propane to, battery electric versus diesel?
Yeah, thank you. That's a great question, Director Martinez. Propane bus is approximately at a 77-passenger, $175,000. That's a net purchase price. Diesel is about $166,000. So there is a difference up front, but where you start saving is in the annual maintenance and care. As an example, for annual maintenance and care, and I'm looking at my sheet here, that's why I'm looking down, about $225 a month, or in maintenance and care, as opposed to a diesel engine is about $690. Annual fuel costs, $5,000 compared to about $7,600 in diesel. And so there are some incentives, obviously, to to look at propane where the cost upfront is a little bit more, but we do start seeing a return. There's also, if we just elect to go to renewable propane, there's an additional incentive through the EPA that allows us, which is a reimbursement at 36 cents a mile. So on top of the 70 cents that we get through ODE, we could be eligible for an additional 36 cents reimbursement from EPA if we chose to do renewable propane.
What's the other half of her question? What's the cost for an electric bus?
Oh, I'm sorry, electric bus, I don't have that information. Last time we looked at that, an electric bus was about 2 years ago. They were about $400,000.
I don't think we want to go there. I just wanted to
Yeah.
throw the number out there so that we have it on the record of why we're not.
And the
necessarily
infrastructure of supporting that, which we're finding across those who did go to electric are struggling with infrastructure support.
Do I understand it correctly? This resolution is providing us opportunity to have access to a grant, whether we purchase a propane bus in the future or not. We can't purchase, we wouldn't get anything out of a diesel bus.
Correct.
But we
Yeah.
could possibly, we don't have to purchase the propane bus within a certain time frame. It just says that we are saying that we're gonna make this change.
Right.
For the future. Is that the idea? of the
You're
resolution?
saying that just correctly.
Okay.
Yep.
And I would say that too as well, as there's no timeframe. It does not preclude us from buying an electric bus if we wanted to, right?
Correct,
It just
correct.
means that we wouldn't get grant money on electric
Right,
bus. We're not doing
because
that
there's
money.
not an approved resolution to
Because
say
there's not
go
an
get an
approved
electric.
resolution. But we could, if the factory lines decided, hey, we're gonna keep rolling diesel off, we could decide we wanna stay diesel, we just would not get the grant funding. Which again would cost us, for every 2 buses we buy, it costs us about $80,000 in
Yeah.
free money.
The state has already, for lack of a better term, punted on this law already once, and so, that's always a possibility too as we get into the year.
Although we've heard no indication
No.
that
Right.
that line is being moved.
No.
Last question. I know that we get a kicker, there's a grant, but there's always a caveat to that. And do we have to dispose of our existing
Yeah.
vehicles, which is gonna be at if it's a functioning diesel bus that we could resell, I know that we're not allowed to resell them, it's just dispose and out of the market, is that
That's
the case?
correct. The typical grant requirements are that you have to kill the block of the engine and you cannot resell it. So we have to dispose of it and take it to a compactor, basically.
Is that if they're out of compliance
If they're out of-
from,
yes.
but if they're not out of
If they're not out
compliance,
of
then you don't
compliance,
have
we
to do
wouldn't have
that.
to.
So that was just because we had to replace essentially the whole fleet by a certain time, because those buses were out of compliance.
Yeah, yes.
That's why we had to destroy the block. If we were today, say, we wanna buy a new bus, we wanna get rid of the bus we bought 3 years ago, we don't have to destroy that.
No, especially if
we're
it meets,
using grant funding.
correct, you're saying that right, Chair
Okay.
Riddell, yes.
There is some law that caps it at sunsets. I think it was 700 or 800,000 miles. So if we
Okay.
bought one at the finish line,
Yeah.
it sunsets, it does cap.
It
If
does
was a
cap.
perfectly good bus at 800K.
And
I'm
it's-
close to the number, not exact.
Yeah,
You have to junk it.
you have to chunk it. Okay, thank you.
And just a point of clarification, all of our buses that are currently en route and use meet DEQ requirements. We do still have buses in our fleet that are gonna expire that 2025 law. So we would aim to replace those before we go towards any other bus that we currently bought or maybe bought 10 years ago, to make sure that we have a healthy inventory of assets.
Mike, I did a little reading on this week, and I'll cite a study from Texas. It was 5 school districts, and a couple of things that stood out. I don't know if you've come across it yet, or it may be too soon to ask, but in their cases, there was also some recovery grant funds available for setting up the infrastructure locally. Like, some of these districts had 1,200 buses, and they had 3 or 4 fueling stations on site, and that was covered by some other grant. Is that out there?
I can't give you a definitive yes, but we will look into it. I would have to talk to our transportation manager and do a little more research.
That was kind of some of
Okay.
the stuff that was
Great.
bothering me in the last meeting was
Yeah.
infrastructure, training,
Yeah,
parts.
yeah.
Did that include machinery, like to fix the buses? Is that in the grant too, that it's?
Yeah, they got, basically the district, all they had to do was pour the concrete pad, and Recovery Act funds covered the rest of it, setting up the tanks, the pumps, the tools.
Be great to do this in Texas then, it sounds like.
Yeah, and they did it quite a while ago.
Thanks, everybody.
And then some other highlights, just real quick, that kind of got me over the hump here was their cost per mile in maintenance on the propane buses was cited at 11 cents. Their diesel fleet they had was 48 cents a mile. That's wise. But you go to the next district and it was a little different. It was 9 cents for propane, 15 for diesel, so maybe they had a more modern diesel fleet. But I read 22 pages of this, and it all leaned in the positive for propane, but they also got a lot of handouts to get there.
Yeah.
Right now, I'm just hearing about, we get a 10-year slow payback if we buy one. So
Yep.
maybe this evolves, other programs will roll out.
Yeah.
For sure. And
Yeah,
that
I
30
appreciate
cents a
that.
mile for the EPA is a good one too.
And so, you started talking about it earlier. Do you know enough about these propane buses? If I pulled over at Chevron where I fill up my 5-gallon for my barbecue, would that get my sports team home? Same connection?
That's a valid question. I don't know enough. I would have to lean on our mechanic and our transportation manager to make sure we get it. We do know that on an average, it's about 400 miles for propane.
I don't mean range,
Oh,
but
okay.
can you fill up anywhere?
Anywhere. That's a very good question, and I don't have the answer to that at the moment.
Because you said, one of you
That's
guys
a good
was
question.
talking about a different type of liquid propane, some sustainable type that we get a grant for.
Yeah.
So does that mean that these would come dual fuel? Or do we have to count on like having access to that fuel all over the state now?
I think it's the latter, having access to a certain type of fuel. I mean, we could entertain a dual fuel system. The renewable fuel obviously gives us an additional incentive. And so again, going back to establishing agreements with other school districts, making sure that we know where we can go to fuel. To say we can go to Chevron, I'm not sure, and I would have to find out and report back. That's a great
I'm gonna
question.
avoid like the charging station issues we all see today.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah.
If we sign up for a special fuel, that's a special
Yeah.
fuel station.
Yeah,
Yeah.
correct.
So I think there's a lot more to unpack, but
Absolutely.
the basic use looked good to me.
Thank you.
Who wrote that?
Great job.
Well, I'll cite that too,
Feral gas.
because you have to have a filter when you read these things. U.S. Department of Energy.
Oh, okay.
They're from corporate and they're here to help.
The ones that are writing the grants.
No, I'm from the government, and I'm here to help.
Yeah.
Well, it's the only data point I could get, so.
Good job.
Thank
And
you,
thank you,
Director
Director
Berman.
Berman,
Yeah, thank you.
for your homework on that.
Not really a question, just sharing some.
Yeah, just other discussion points. I think that what I want to highlight again is what this does is say, we're either, when we need to transition, we're either saying we want to transition to electric or we want to transition to propane.
Yes.
It's not, we don't want to transition at all and we're just going to do what we want to do, right? We have to pick one at some point in time in the future.
At some
And so I
point.
think as we've had conversations, and not to put words in anybody's mouth, but I think as we've had conversations, at this juncture, electric is not an avenue that we want to look at going down based on size of geographic area that we cover and cost of the buses and infrastructure that's needed. So I think from that standpoint, we need to pick one of them. We can all decide which one we want to pick, but that's the crux of this resolution. We can then debate on what type of fuel and when we do it, and if there's diesel still available, do we want to spend more money to get them because we don't like the infrastructure? Those are all decisions that we can make as a board down the road.
Yep.
And it doesn't say that we have to stop buying diesel anytime soon. So if
Correct.
that law does get kicked down the lane or whatever, this does nothing other than say, when we transition from diesel, at this point in time, we want to transition to propane. And the other reality is, and correct me if I'm wrong, if there's a major shift in propane versus electric, we could do another resolution down the road that says we
Absolutely.
want to switch away from propane and go. I don't think that's gonna happen, but we could do that as well. It's just to get the grant funding, we have to have a resolution
Yeah, we have to
approving the
have
purchases.
a board approval for it.
Is the grant funding tied to a specific date that's already passed?
I say that again, I'm sorry.
Like, if we were to go buy a diesel bus tomorrow.
Yeah.
Could we get reimbursement on the funding?
Yes. Oh, yeah. We're not, there's no grants available, but we still get reimbursed. Yes.
The 70
The
cents.
70 cents.
So when was that date, though? That we could no longer buy a diesel bus and get reimbursed?
25.
Yep.
They won't
January of
because they don't
2025.
make them anymore?
No, the whole reason we're doing this is because we either have to go to propane or electric.
Yes.
Because of, grant or reimbursement, right?
The reason why we're electing, there's two reasons. The first reason is that the state of Oregon and the state of Washington follow the California emission law, which means that they're phasing out all diesel engines. And the manufacturers are choosing to stay with semi-trucks right now because they get credits for that. So they're getting a little more leeway, and there's more profit in there. So they're not going to be making diesel engine buses.
I'm following all that, but you said somewhere along the line that we get a reimbursement. Is that the 70%? 70 cents per gallon?
70% over 10 years, right?
Yes.
And then there was the buy one, get one free or half off, right?
That's the grant.
That's the
what
grant,
we're
okay.
using.
So when was that when is that drop dead?
125 is when, of this month for this fiscal year, where we would be eligible to get one is the deadline for this grant.
So if we went and bought 2 buses tomorrow that were diesel, we could do it and
Yes.
get reimbursed?
Yes.
So can we do that?
That's our plan.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that's our plan.
There's just no grant opportunities to offset the 200,000 plus if we went and got 2 buses,
Okay.
right? So.
After the 25th.
No, right now.
In general, there's no more grants. So DEQ came out with VW, a grant to offset costs for diesel buses to meet the emission laws by DEQ for the state of Oregon.
Right.
Those are no longer, all those monies are gone.
Gone.
Yeah.
So like if we go buy a diesel bus today, we don't have that
It's
I
grant.
think
Straight out of
what
pocket.
Ben's asking is, what was that date?
Yeah, what was that date?
I have no idea. I just know that date is, they don't just have any
It's
more.
behind us.
Yeah, it's behind us.
It's not in front of us.
There's just no longer money. When we tried to apply for it, we were told there's no more money.
Okay.
So it wasn't a date that it expired, it was
It's
this
just the
is the
monies.
pool of money that
Yes.
we will give out, and that pool is
So
empty.
from now till 25, we can get the 70% over 10 years.
Yes.
That's a constant because that's through ODE. And so as long as we're transporting students to and from school in those buses, that's 70%.
And that applies to everything. That includes bus driver salary, the fuel,
Equipment.
Mechanics.
the monitor that we purchase on the secretary's desk. Anything that touches transportation
Yeah.
is 70 cents or 70% reimbursable.
And that's not tied to fuel.
That's not tied to
That
anything.
is tied to functionality, so
Correct.
that,
And the federal government ultimately pays for
yeah,
that.
so the fuel change just is, if there's grant money available when you buy a bus,
Yes.
it has to be a propane or a electric bus starting in 2025 to get the grant money. If there's grant money
And they're
available.
gonna stop making diesels.
Yeah, that's the big one.
Correct.
So, because we could get a grant today to buy a propane bus today, and we would get that buy one, get one free deal if it's propane only. But in 2025, we will no longer even have an option to purchase a brand-new diesel bus off the line.
Right.
Because it won't be made.
Wait a minute. I'm sorry, but I'm confused.
Great.
A minute ago, he said it's gone.
Yeah.
The 1.5.
Right.
It's gone.
It is gone.
But you just said it's still good if we buy propane.
Correct.
It's a different
different
grant.
grant
I thought they were out of money.
It's
No,
a different
They
grant.
are.
Put it somewhere else.
They're out of money.
Different color.
Yeah.
That's what all it is.
It is a different color money, but they are out of grant money and no longer funding grants for any diesel bus. So if we bought a diesel bus today, the DEQ in the state would say, great, but you do not get the buy one, get one half off.
Only get the front half of the second bus.
Yeah.
You get the 70%.
We pay full
And we
price.
get the 70%, I know that.
We do get the
yeah.
70% no
Yeah,
matter what.
I understand that.
But if we applied for that grant, which we can't be eligible for unless the board passes a resolution to do so, once the board says we are for propane, then we could be eligible for a buy one, get one half off new grant, new color of money for a propane bus today.
Okay.
But in 2025, a year from now, our ability to even
Right.
purchase a diesel bus will have expired, is what they're
Yeah.
saying.
I don't like the term "could be."
Right. Yeah, sure.
Yeah. I mean, what do we have to do to make it will instead of could be?
Get to
Go to
2025.
Salem.
Yeah. Go to Salem.
What-
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's that all of that decision-making is entirely out of our hands. Where the factor where we play in is how do we be as fiscally responsible while updating our safe fleet to transport kids. And so this is where, if we as a board, and I'm on this team too, if our team decides for principle that we want to be pro-diesel, we just need to intentionally know that we're making that decision, paying more to replace our fleet than we could if we wanted to move to propane. And it's not that we're boxed into that decision, but if we go propane, we're saving our taxpayers money by choosing something that's cheaper because of the grant. You're using a coupon.
Maybe.
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 No, we get the coupon.
We will get the coupon.
We'll get the coupon for propane, that's guaranteed, if the board approves this resolution.
But there's more costs
So we'll
associated.
get one for
sure.
one full price and one half price for guaranteed.
Correct.
Okay.
If
That's
it's,
what I wanted to
if
hear.
it's propane.
Yeah, that's what I wanted to hear.
And I just, again, I think there's a lot still to unbox on propane, but the reality is we're not, all we're saying is if we need to make a change, it's gonna be propane instead of electric.
Correct.
That's all we're saying tonight,
Correct.
Right.
Yeah,
right?
Yes.
It doesn't say when we're gonna do it, it doesn't say
No.
we're gonna replace
Yep.
our fleet, it doesn't say we're gonna spend a dime. It just says, of these two options, if these are the only two, propane is the one that we're choosing. That's all we're voting on tonight.
Correct.
Yeah, because
Yep.
we don't even have costs on infrastructure
Right.
support. Like,
Right.
we're still waiting on those costs.
Can I
And,
just ask one other question?
yeah,
Mike and Ryan, thanks for all the information. Is there anything that indicates that if we say yes to this and buy a diesel bus, will we be penalized in any other way besides losing the 80,000 for two buses?
no, but if I were to guess, based on how they're phasing out diesel DEQ emissions, because, I don't know, when I first became superintendent, which most of you were on the board, I think it was 2014-15, it had already been indicated that by 2025, we had to phase out a certain type of diesel bus.
Yeah.
And so my guess is I would guess within the next 5 years, either the federal government or the state of Oregon will say by 2035, all diesel buses have to go. And so any more buses we purchase that are diesel now will end up haunting us later as we try to aggressively replace the fleet to be in compliance with whatever. I mean, maybe we're running on vegetable oil that day. Like, I don't know, but my point is I wouldn't be surprised if in the near future, they're gonna do the same thing to diesel buses that they're doing to older model diesel buses now.
Yeah, that's helpful. Thank you.
Yeah. I do think it's also important too, the authority of the board, there is one more check and balance prior to any approval, and that is the school district has to present the purchase of a bus to the board because of its cost. And so even if we say diesel, propane, or battery, the district isn't authorized to purchase any of these things without your final approval.
Right.
And so there is another opportunity to screen this process.
All right. Discussed, good discussed. Any other questions?
Did you say discuss or discuss?
You can hear what you would like to hear, Director Wolfhard. All right, any other questions for Mike or for Superintendent Carpenter? Okay, so just to clarify,
Thank you, Mike.
we're voting on when we need to switch. Do we choose electric or do we choose propane? That's what we're voting on right now.
It's an opinion, a resolution is an opinion of the board, so there is no action. The board is just determining its opinion, and would you like to go propane, or would you like to go battery?
That's it.
See.
Keeping my head up this time too. All right. Moved, seconded, discussed at length, great discussion, really appreciate everybody, and a special shout out to Director Berman for all the homework, so, much
Yes.
appreciated.
One question. Does this apply to, small buses?
Oh, good question.
Like vans?
Yes.
I think diesel van.
Yes. But they are trying to, they are converting, but those like smaller buses, vans, obviously to gas fueled.
Yeah.
Gasoline's okay.
Yeah. for right now.
For now.
It'll be on the chopping block very, very soon.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Short bus comes by.
All right, any additional discussion? All in favor, raise your right hand.
Motion carries.
Thank you, everyone.
What a great discussion.
Great discussion.
From a great board.
On to item L, hearing of citizens for non-action items.
Yes, we have Jeff.
Jeff, come on up. While you're coming up, I'm going to read my little ditty here. As a board, we appreciate and encourage public input. However, Oregon Public Meeting Law requires these sessions to be held in public. This is a meeting in public. It is not a public meeting. The primary difference being that public input may be requested or allowed, but is not required under the law. In other words, you have the right to view, but not necessarily to participate. Policy BDDH is the guide for public participation. In essence, it states that citizens must sign up in advance of the beginning of the regular meeting for an opportunity to speak. At all times, your comments are to be addressed directly to the board. Speaking time will be limited to 3 minutes or less. Those with common topics of interest are asked to combine comments where possible, designate topic at time of sign up, and stay on topic. Any items already directed to the Office of Superintendent for review will not be heard in the board session. Finally, neither the board nor district personnel are expected or required to respond to comments and/or questions during board meetings. Welcome. I'm on board. I'm getting better at that one. So Jeff, you got 3 minutes. We'll let you introduce yourself, and then we'll start the clock for you.
Okay, I'm Jeff Stevens. I graduated from Estacada in 1971, and I've got three other brothers and 2 sisters that graduated from 1959 to the mid-70s. Awesome. And imagine walking 1,800 miles. That's what the distance is from Independence, Missouri, out to Eagle Creek. Before there was any freeways, it was all dirt road, ruts, mud. Anyhow, when my great-great-great-great-grandfather, Nash Reed, Dr. Nash Reed, came into the valley, he nursed about 4 or 5 other wagons in that group into the valley because they were ill. And he got into Eagle Creek and immediately slept one night, immediately went back to the next wagon train because they were suffering the same illness. He got those folks in, so now we're late into the fall of 1848, and what did they decide to do? They decided to, he and 3 other men established the first public school west of Independence, Missouri. That's how important it was to them. And they built a one-room schoolhouse, and then they needed to build another one, and those 2 were torn down to what is in Eagle Creek right now is the 1918 building. And 3 years ago, I was able to sneak up in there and take a look at some of the structure, and here's concrete that was mixed by hand on site, and there's one crack in the concrete, and it's got concrete stairs, concrete foundation, and up in the trusses they had to be fabricated on site, and most of them, if you know what the size of knots are, if you go into Home Depot now, a knot this big and a 2x4 is just fine. Well, that whole roof system is knots the size of your little finger is about as big as they get. And here's this beautiful building that when I went there, it was all white, and the deterioration is continuing. The header over the 7th and 8th grade classroom is settled. I couldn't measure it, but it looks like it's down another inch or inch and a half from the 3 inches it was 3 years ago. And
Jeff, I'm going to pause you here really quick if you can stop the time, because at 3 minutes we have to stop. So I don't want you to run out too early. I didn't give that disclosure up front, so I wanted to stop you because it is a hard stop at 3. So so just wanted to give you that because I appreciate the history, but I didn't want you to run out of time.
Well, the bell tower is collapsing now, and it needs to be removed. Nothing has changed over the last 3 years. I retired now, and I'm ready to commit the next 2 years of my life to making that waterproof envelope so the interior of that school doesn't deteriorate anymore.
Got it.
That's all I got.
Okay.
And I'd love to hear a plan. I'd love to be part of that plan. I've got to have it in, never mind.
No, you're good. You're good. You can finish. So, but yeah.
Direct me to
my-
talk to
Yeah.
him.
How do we continue
You
this?
talk to Ryan. Yeah.
Yep, that's direct me to talk to him, and we'll set up a meeting, and we'll, yep.
Ryan, will you talk to Jeff and set up a meeting? And-
I serve at the pleasure of the board.
Perfect. Thank you. All
Thanks.
right. Thank you very much for being here. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
See, John, it's not just you I cut off. I cut off everybody. All right. We are on to item M, which is adjournment. Thank you, everybody, for being here. Have a great night.